Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. His name is Keyimani Alford. Mr. Keyimani, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a speaker and a creative leader. Can you please, Mr. Keyimani, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Keyimani?
Yeah, so currently I am a higher education professional. So I live, of course, in Wisconsin, United States here, where I serve as an executive leader for a college and university here in actually in the state of Wisconsin, but in the city of Madison. So I work as an associate vice president of student access and success. So I've been in the higher education space for probably about 27 years. Providing access and support to students who have come from disadvantaged or underrepresented backgrounds in order to create opportunity for them to obtain a higher education credential or degree. So I've done that work for many, many years. One specifically because it is connected to who I am as far as my own values and my oral morals based off of my own story. I want to be in a space where I could also create change and then also an opportunity for me to tell the narrative that no matter where you come from, you have an opportunity as far as to change the trajectory of your life. So it is one of the reasons why it has connected me and rooted me into my profession, just overall. And then even while in this space, I knew specifically that my life and my story had a meaning and had purpose. So that's where it basically changed the whole aspect of me, one, being able to tell my story on stage, that information, but it's being able to pin it into my stories, into my books, to be able to tell that story. Because I think sometimes when we write things down, it creates an others to be able to resonate with it. But then I also knew from conversations that I would have with people, just from my students, from staff, from colleagues, that it was like, wow, you have a very powerful story. And it was one that I needed to write it down and get it out to the world to create an opportunity for them to be motivated, inspired, and feel a sense of hope. So that's kind of where it landed me to where I am currently in my, I would say, life journey. So overall.
Honestly speaking, that is very, very beautiful, Mr. Keyimani. Because in this life, at times, we do have a lot of ups and downs, but that ups and downs should be a reason we should give to others. It should be a reason to inspire others that no matter the background you come from, no matter where you are, you can definitely be on the top because every single person, like someone like you, has faced it and has come out of it. And that is a motivation to others, which you are doing perfectly and also which you brought into a book to also impact more people and more people who are not really currently in your community to also learn one or two things in those areas. And that is why I would like to dive to your book, Oakland Hills, Milwaukee Rivers. The topic is so much, but can you please, Mr. Kayimani, please just dive to us more on those books? And do you also even plan from the experience you've had of writing more books in the coming future, Mr. Kayimani?
Yeah, so Oakland Hills, Milwaukee Rivers, a memoir of survival, identity, and purpose is a personal memoir that I started writing about 5 years ago. I started writing it, and then what's so funny is I wrote it or wrote two or three chapters of it and put it into a didn't touch it for 4 years. And over that process, and it went back to the whole aspect of like knowing that I needed to tell my story and conversations that I've had with people over time and over the years. And it took me to a place where I was driving home from work. I have about an hour commute from work. And while I was driving back home, um, I heard this voice that said, "You need to finish what you started. It's time for you to finish what you started." So from there, I was like, all right, let's pull it out and like find it. So I found my pages or the chapters that I wrote and started going through them. And then from there, everything started flowing again, like literally, like clockwork. And then from there, I was able to capture certain sentiments and certain segments of my life that I wanted to put out to the world. Some moments of joy, some moments of pain, some of grief, some of secrets. Honestly, I wrote this book from a vulnerable place. I really wanted to allow the reader, allow the world to know that many of the things that we go through, we're not the only ones that's going through it. And there are people who can resonate with those challenges and those situations that we face within life. And a lot of times, we as individuals, as people, we keep them compartmentalized within ourselves, and we try to deal with this without having to talk to anyone. One is because we might feel ashamed about telling our story, um, or we might feel no one is going to truly understand what we're going through. So I wrote it from that lens of let me be vulnerable and share things that I believe others are going to be able to resonate with, but then also other stories that people should know that exist. Even as a black man, I'm a black man in America. You don't often get a black man who was as vulnerable as I was within my memoir. So I wrote it from that aspect of it. And one is I also wrote it because it was, I would say, a form of therapy for me. So it was therapeutic and it allowed me to release many of the situations that I faced while I was growing up. For example, growing up here, I left my mother when I was at the age of 11. And I left because I was living in a situation that was not suitable for me as a young black male to be raised. Poverty, walking into the house, electricity being off, walking to the house, no food, being surrounded by drugs, understanding that when my mom got her government assistance check, her welfare check every first and 15th, that it would last only for a couple hours and then after that it would be gone because it either went to drugs or to something else. And that was the kind of life that I was living in and growing up in. And based off of that, it created different, I would say, issues, thoughts, moments of self awareness, and even challenging myself as far as to try to understand, like, what is wrong with me that my mom, in a sense, or my parents, because my dad was there too in California as well, where he wasn't even around. So it dealt with the whole broken promises aspect of it on his end as a father, the situation that was going on with the whole drug aspect of it, and then just often the passing around, I would say, going from my mom's house to my aunt that was there. So the book was to capture that, but it was all capture as far as where the change was that occurred within my life. So when I was 11 years old, I then transitioned to Milwaukee, traveled 2,000 miles away from where I was to live with an aunt who came and visited me in California and saw the conditions that I was in. So I considered her to be my guardian angel because that is what really catapulted or changed the path for me within life. And I feel that it was a divine assignment for her to see me within that moment and to change that. So going back to Oakland Hills, Milwaukee Rivers specific, the title itself has symbolism because Oakland is the city that I was in. Hills is symbolic of the challenges, the ups and downs. Milwaukee is the place that I came, but the rivers is symbolic of the change that happens. So that's where Oakland Hills, Milwaukee Rivers comes in as far as the title, but the memoir of survival, identity, and purpose helps to ground the actual transformation that transpired within those pages. And then the story that I tell with the readers that takes them through various aspects of emotion. But it really connects the reader to everyday life. And it's been some of the responses that I've got from people that they've been mad, they've laughed, they've cried, um, they felt my pain because of how I presented my story and how I've told it. And I told it from a very vulnerable
Hmm.
area in a very vulnerable place. So I think that's why it's resonating with so many that's reading it because of the true lived experience that I left on the page. I didn't write it per se to become rich. I wrote it to tell my story in order to impact somebody else. Um, so that's my ultimate goal. And
Mm.
my purpose right now is to make sure that as many people hear this, because I know there's so many people out in the world now that is experiencing the hurt and the pain and the challenges that even I had. And to know that there's somebody out there that can resonate with it, I think is really important.
You definitely answered it, Mr. Keyimani. I have to be honest with you. And I 100% understand what you're talking about because to come out from a background that is really, really unacceptable, to come out of that place and to thrive and do the right thing is very, very powerful, to be honest with you, because many goes through that path and they never came out of it successfully. Some do join the gangs and all those things are happening. But you've showed yourself that there is hope. You showed every single person that no matter how the thing could be, there's definitely a chance. It could definitely cause pain, triumphs, ups and downs, but there is always hope. So Mr. Keyimani has
Absolutely.
brought a story to definitely let every single person understand that there is always hope no matter the triumphs, no matter if even as you said earlier, your parents for that matter, and our getting absence from parents is very, very, very powerful. It's definitely not an easy thing. And that is why I would like to dive to into that perspective regarding your book, Mr. Keyimani, because you explore the ways of parental absence, because you had a lot of parental absence, which is definitely not a very, very easy thing. And also
Mhm.
the act of broken promises. So, how do you think these early wounds influence a person's sense of worth, of belonging, Mr. Keyimani?
Well, I think ultimately that both of those they echo. One is because they make you wonder if you're easy to leave. And that was something that I dealt with for a very long time. Like, why was it so easy for my parents to separate themselves from me and to be away from me? I think that was one of the things. But then it also helped me as far as to realize or to narrow in if love always means waiting. And sometimes you start believing that silence is your fault, and it's really not. It's that's what it's what I kind of like carried in that, and I had to really unlearn that for several years, as far as being 2,000 miles away from my parents and being in a situation where for years I had no contact with either of them. Like I had no idea as far as where they were. So that silence painted type of thoughts in my mind. Did they care? Was they thinking about me? Why wasn't I enough? Being the only child for both of my parents, it I would say exacerbated that a little bit more. Because I'm like, I'm the only child. How can this even happen? And to even dig a little deeper, because I share in the book that the reality that my mom had 11 miscarriages before I was born. And then she had two miscarriages after me. My dad didn't have any children besides me. So it was always that weight to understand that if I was the only child that survived, why is it that I was in this particular situation where both of my parents, in this case, didn't have enough strength in them in their own selves in order to navigate this space to, I would say, to honor the gift that they were given as a child, but then also to protect and shield me from the challenges that we were facing within life. So, like when you talk about or ask the question as far as the whole weight of parental absence and those broken promises, it all marries itself together because I had the broken promises from my dad, who would say that I'm coming to pick you up. And there's a story that I tell within the book. I sat on the steps waiting for him to come pick me up for one weekend and he never showed up. What does what kind of message does that send to a young black male who just wants the presence of his father? And then you have the whole aspect of the absence of both of the parents, understanding that I transitioned across the country and for many years neither of them was in the picture. So it deals with you psychologically, but you have to get to a point where you create the answer or realize that life had just given her, as far as my mom, just a bad hand. And one decision that she made caused a domino effect that impacted everything that was connected to her, and that included me. So it wasn't her fault. It was a decision that she made at some point in life that changed as far as the trajectory or the outcome that she originally wanted for me. And I did to a point where I accepted that and realized it because otherwise I've been carrying for many years and many years but I would have continued to carry this form of regret and resentment that I had for both of my parents, feeling that they owed me better, which is truth that they did as a parent,
Mm,
but the realization and the maturity aspect of it is that life was just being to them. And I had to give them that form of grace to say, you know what happened was supposed to happen
mm,
to me and or to us. And we have to focus on now what has matured or come out of that in order to reestablish something better
mm.
within our life. So that's kind of where that all comes in that intersection of the parental absence and as far as the whole broken promises comes.
To be honest with you, that is what every single child should not experience, and it is definitely not easy. Every single child needs a support of a parent because a parent brought a child to the world, and when a parent brought a child to the world, he or she needs care, he or she needs support to drive through the triumphs, the ups and downs that they've encountered ahead of them. And you as a person that do have that kind of companion, that kind of support, that kind of care is a very, very big damage. And that damage could
Mhm.
affect in many ways. And honestly speaking, to be honest with you, Mr. Keyimani, I'm very surprised that you actually got through this and you are actually living a very fulfilled and very welcoming life because it is a very, 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 very heavy tax. And that is the beauty because that shows that every single person knows what he or she is facing. You are all facing ups and downs and also triumphs. And some people are even worse and even higher and they actually overcome it. And that is the beauty of the life we are into. And that is the beauty of what we are conversing about today. And also, that is why I would like to dive to the point of forgiveness. Your parents are
Mhm.
very great. They brought you to this world, but forgiveness also play a very, very huge part. So how do we think we could learn to forgive those who hurt us without excusing the pain they've caused, Mr. Kiyimani?
Yeah, so forgiveness for me is definitely one of the things that I truly had to face.
Yeah.
I believe that we as people have a response when someone hurts us. I think we have our responsibility not to forget, but to forgive because forgiveness isn't always just about the other person, it's about us. When I think about it, when you ask as far as like how do we learn to forgive those who hurt us without excusing that pain per se, for me, this was realizing that forgiveness wasn't necessarily for them. I had to like really hone in on that because I had to realize it was for me because I could never be what I was created to be, holding on to the things people did to me intentionally or unintentionally or unintentionally. Now, forgiveness, I would say, isn't saying that it didn't matter. No, nothing justifies how somebody treats you, and we should never give anybody what we consider to be a hall pass for somebody treating you wrong, right? But it's saying when you think about forgiveness, it's saying that you matter more than what they did. And I had to stop carrying what wasn't mine. I couldn't continue to carry something that somebody else did to me like it was my fault. And that's where I ended up finding peace. So when I would let that go and said, you know what, this happened. Yes, it happened. This wasn't the ideal state of what I wanted to occur, but it happened. We can't go back to the past and change it. So why am I continue to bring the past with me into the future. So when I got to the whole aspect of letting it go, then it gave me a sense of peace. And that peace allow me to be able to write as far as the book and have the whole revelation that what I had to go through and or those parts that I went through were moments to repair my own broken relationship. And when I truly realize this now, and even while I was writing it, I came to this realization is that in relationships, when somebody does you wrong, we have a responsibility to ourselves and also to the person that did us wrong. And that's it's the irony of it that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to the person that did us wrong to do our due diligence in order to help repair whatever that broken relationship is. And here's the reason why I say that is because if something is broken and something wasn't presented or is not in the fashion or the state that you wanted it to be, how can you say that you can never get to that point if you don't do intentionally something to try to repair it? Now, you might have someone that did something very horrible to you. And yes, you might not want to talk to them. But if you say, okay, well, I know this happened, this occurred to us, or it occurred between us, I want to get to a point where we can get past this. I might not forget it. I'm not going to forget it because it happened, right? But I want to get to a point that we can have some form of reconciliation about this situation. So if you don't do that as people, if we don't do that, what happens is we continue to have it in the back and we continue to carry it in our backpack with us, saying, I'm not going to talk to this person. I'm not going to talk to that person because they did me wrong. And we truly don't know the full gambit of what happened. So something might have occurred. Let's say somebody stole $200 from you or stole some money from you, and it was money that you needed and you end up finding it was stolen and you wash your hands from it. You don't want to talk to them anymore, right? But you end up finding out later on, or you don't have any conversation with them, you don't talk to them. But then you create a moment of forgiveness where you intentionally do something to try to understand and repair it. You have a conversation like, you stole my money. This is how I felt when you stole my money. And they tell you, well, the reason why I stole your money because I was in a really bad situation. X, Y, and Z was happening to me, and I had no other recourse. But because you basically cut yourself off from me, I have an opportunity to have any conversation with you, although I might have tried to reach out to you. So it's like getting the whole picture. Now, it does not take the sting out of the situation or the act that happened.
Mm.
No, you don't forget that. But if you don't intentionally do anything to try to understand, then you'll never get to the point where you can release that baggage that you've been carrying for years in some cases that has altered that particular relationship. So that's why it was important for me when I really dealt with this because there's multiple stories within Oakland Hills, Milwaukee Rivers that I tell that made me have to face this. Like, Kimani, you cannot carry this any longer. Let it go and get the closure and the reconciliation that you need in order to repair some of these relationships. And now, some of the stories and relationships that I've had, the situations with my mom, it's restored because we have now an understanding. Situation with my dad as well. We built a relationship that before he passed, that we were in a good state, in a good place, and we were on the path of having full reconciliation. But those would not have happened if I didn't intentionally do anything in order to try to restore it. I could have carried it, but I decided not to. So that's why forgiveness isn't just for us. I mean, for them, it's for us too.
Yeah.
And until we realize that, we'll continue to carry baggage and old wounds and old feelings that I would say bury us or hold us down from being who we truly are.
Yeah. And you and I will also agree that, even for someone to have this heavy load, to first leave one, forgiveness is the first part, because forgiveness begin the healing within. Because if we are carrying that load, I don't think there's any other thing that will take the load away from us. Right, quite the fact that we have to first forgive. Then when we start to first forgive, then we can definitely try to see those heavy loads releasing. We could definitely start to do one or two things that could definitely bring some sort of reconciliation, which will help me and which will also help the person who is actually having the issue of forgiveness. So that is a very, very beautiful point. And lastly, if someone is also feeling alone today with their pain, you have a person who have faced a lot of pain and you overcome it. So if someone is listening right now that's they're alone in pain or they are ashamed of their past, what would you say to them, Mr. Keyimani?
I would say to them that you are not alone. Um, you are not alone and you're not beyond healing. And the things that you've been through may explain who you are as an individual, but they don't define you. And I will also say that you are not too late to become who you were meant to be. Oh, regardless of what transpired within your past, what's occurring right now, those moments should be utilized as stepping stones to propel you to your destiny and to your future.
Yeah.
Um, and I will also say it takes me back to a biblical Christian scripture that is Romans 8 and 28. For we know that all things work together for the good of those who are called.
Mm.
And that scripture grounds me because it's one motivational, but it's also reflective that allows us to understand that the challenges and the obstacles and the situations that we face, they're all going to work out in your favor at some point. Now, we might not always understand while they're occurring, but at some point in life, we'll be able to reflect back and understand, oh, that's why this happened. Or this is why this happened because now I am faced with this individual that has come into my life and my story that I experienced is now something I can tell them as a testimony of what they
Mm.
can get past. So that's what I would say to that individual who might be feeling alone and in their pain or ashamed.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Be your authentic, truthful self. Be own who you are and do not be ashamed of the things that you've experienced and the things that you feel are not worthy. You are worthy. You were created for a particular reason, and you have purpose even in the midst of your tests and your trials.
That's the beauty of the life we are into. Every single one of us have faced pain, ups and downs, but it is just the way we deal with it. That is how we are going to definitely be respected and remembered. And you've tried your best to deal with it in a very more responsible way, which has really brought you to a point to write a very, very inspiring book that will help others. And that is the beauty of life that we are into. And that is a very, very, very impressive one, Mr. Keyimani. So there's a question, Mr. Keyimani, I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Keyimani, what do you think that thing would be, Mr. Keyimani?
That I would want to bring back today.
Yeah.
I would say that the struggles that our ancestors faced, the tenacity that they had to endure and display, the struggles that they overcame to create opportunities for us, we should not let that go in vain. We should hold tight to what they endured and utilize that as a catalyst in order to accomplish the things that we have before us. And it is our responsibility, I would say, not to let them down. As we're standing on the shoulders of those who've paved ways for us, It is our responsibility to do our due diligence to be the best who we can be and do the best that we can as well. I have on the back of my laptop that says, your best is enough. So as long as you're giving your best, that's all that the world and our ancestors basically want is for us to do our best. So that's what I would say.
Yes, unity, community, they are very, very important. During our ancestral time, those things are very valuable. We come together and show ourselves the kind of care, the kind of support. And those are one thing that we definitely do not want to lose in our time today. We want to continue to give ourselves the kind of care and support so that every single one of us, we grow and impact the society. Just like a person facing a lot of triumph, pain, that is very, very damaging. This is the time that we as one can show ourselves that this is the care that we need. This type of life, even yours, I'm still really, really much impressed that you actually got through it, because it is a very, very heavy cross that you carried, and it definitely came out of it. And that is the beauty. Definitely need to show ourselves the support, the kind of care, and we are definitely always not alone in terms of situation, traumas, and pain. We are just finding it in our own space, and that is the beauty. We definitely hope that the best, and we definitely hope that the great things our people have done will definitely maintain it and make it more better. I also want to use this opportunity to sincerely thank you for the time, the opportunity, and I'm so very much happy that you're strong, happy, and you're doing great things to the community. Thank you so much, Mr. Keyimani.
Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, Mr. Keyimani. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Keyimani. Bye bye.
Bye.